Assalamualaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we're going to learn how to add product details in your Flutter application and we're going to get data from Firebase. So let's first quickly have a look what we're going to create. Our application is running and because user is already logged in, so we are redirected to the home screen and in here all the data is loaded. Down below in the previous tutorial we learn how to fetch all these type of products, single product, variation product. We covered each and everything related to Firebase. We learn how to fetch the data and display on a grid. Also we learn how to create discounts, display the discounted price, the actual price, price range. We get the stock status of this product, and also at the top you can see we learn how to create the percentage tag which is going to calculate percentage for each product. But in today's tutorial, when you are going to click on this single type of product, you will see that we have a simple image, then we have some metadata, and down below we have a description. We don't have any tags, attributes, because we don't have variations for this product. And if you head back and open the variations product, you can see another thing which is variations. So by keeping these things in mind, we're going to first of all divide the complete code into three main parts. The first part will be how to handle the images, because when you click on this image, you can view it in a large mode. We first of all have to focus that how to get thumbnail image, the first one, then how to load all the other images of this product, and if there is any image of the variation, we are able to get all the images of this variation. So when this variation is going to be selected, we can easily display the selected variation image like this one. So these are the variation images. We will get all the images, combine them and display them inside this slider. After that, we have to make sure that whenever the image is selected, we have a border in blue color and selected image should appear at the top. After dealing with the images, we are going to get back and get all the data inside this metadata. And the third thing is to display product attributes. And when these attributes are going to be selected, we have to change the image from the top, and also we have to get a selected variation data and display it over here. So this is going to be very important. Don't miss anything and watch the video till end. I hope your all questions will be solved in the video, and if you still have anything in mind, you can ask me in the comments. And also you can get the complete code, link is in the description, or you can watch the complete playlist for the previous videos or for the upcoming videos, link is in the description or from the right top corner. Now we are creating Flutter e-commerce application and we are inside our last section in which we are about to complete this playlist, and plus add on we are going to also create PayPal and Stripe backend videos to get the payments. And in the previous videos from section 1 till section 4 we have completed the design as well as the backend of login authentication using Google sign in, email and password, forget password and bunch of other things. So let's get started with today's tutorial. Inside our project, let's go to lib folder, and inside features we are going to deal with a shop feature, and in the screens we have product details. Open the product details. Inside this product details screen, you can see the first thing is we have to deal with the product image slider, which is a separate widget. Then in the number 2 we have product details. Inside this we have ratings, then we have the product metadata that we have to add. Then the third thing is to add the product attributes and also the description over here. So let's first start with a product image slider, and also this is not needed. Let's go to image slider, and inside you can see we have the main large image first, and then we have image slider which is using list view to display all the rounded images. And then at the end we have the app bar icons because we are using stack. So to keep icons on top of these things, we have to add them at the end. Okay, so first and foremost, open the product details, and in here in the previous tutorial we received final product. If you click on this and go to product vertical card, and inside you can see in the get.to we are calling the new screen, and also we passed the product. So when we receive this product over here, we are going to do the same inside the image slider. We're going to get the product over here because no product is required, so add a required attribute and pass the product, remove the constant. Now we have the product for which we want to display the images. So first of all we need to get all the images, because if you open your Firebase console, inside the Firestore go to the products, and in the products you can see the first thing we have list of images over here. So these images list for maybe a single type of product, and also a product variation can also have list of images. So this is the optional thing, but we also have to include these images. After that we have a variation, and each variation has its own image. You can see over here we also have to loop through and get all these images as well for each variation. And at the end you can see we also have a thumbnail image. So we first have to get all these images in one variable. So to do that, to keep things simple, because we're dealing with the image slider, so let's head to product controllers and create image controller. For that I'm going to add a new folder inside controllers, name it product, and also I'm going to add actual product controller inside the product controllers. Now we have other controllers right over here, and all the products related to the product will be inside this product controller. So same way we're going to create a new controller I've named it images controller, and inside it is a simple class extending with a getX controller. If you don't know about these things, you can watch the previous videos to know about them, and also what is this RX and why we are using this OBS. We have covered in detail in the previous videos. So to save the time, we are going to move forward. So the first variable that we need is the selected product image. This will be the URL of the selected product image, right? So currently we don't have any URL. It is an empty string, but it is a string of type RX, means that, and also you can see it is .obs. This means that this will be observer variable, and this will be observed by the RX. So whenever there is change inside this variable, we will be able to redraw our design so that we can always display the selected product image. If you see the image over here, you can see the current images are selected. So whenever I'm going to select an image, this selected product image will have a new URL, and because this URL is changed, this value is changed, so this RX is going to detect its change, and the OBX variable that we are going to create will automatically redraw this widget again and again when required. So the first thing is, you can see list of strings means we want list of images or the list of URLs that we want to display. We will receive the product and we will try to get all the images and return into a list. And then also we want to create a function which is going to show a large image. So first of all, we want to get all the product images of this current product. So first create empty images or the empty list of images, which are the set string. And the reason to use set string is to add unique images only. So this set is not going to add duplicated image URLs. If you have same URL once or twice or thrice, you're going to add the same URL. It is not going to add that, but it is going to add only once instead of duplicating. So if you have same image uploaded with different URLs, so it is not going to work over here because that URL will not be treated as the unique. So the first thing is to add inside this images, add the product thumbnail image. And once we have this image, then we can easily make this product thumbnail image assigned to the selected product image, because we first want to display the thumbnail image as a large image. So by default, this thumbnail image will be assigned to the selected product image as the main image to be displayed. Then we have a list of images in the product.images. If they are not null, we are going to assign all the images from this product images, and using images.addAll, we will be able to add all the images inside this images list. And after that, we are going to check the variations, and we're going to get all the images from product variations not null. How we can do that? We are first going to check if product variations are not null and they are not empty. We will be able to add the check over here to images.addAll, same way we have done over here for the list. And for the single image, we're using add. We're going to call the product variations, and because they are not null, so add exclamation. Using map property, this map is going to add a loop for each variation, and we are going to get a unique variation each time inside this variable. So variation.image will be returned from this map. You can also add additional check over here that if this variation image is not null, so when this loop will be completed, a complete list will be assigned to these images. And now we just have to return those images by creating them into a list. This means that now list of string is being returned from here. And also, in order to display large image, we want to open another screen, but not the screen we have already created. So we're going to use get.to to redirect to another screen, but we also want this to be a full screen dialog. So it is going to animate in a way that looks like that a new dialog is being appeared, but it will be treated as a complete screen. And then we have to create a function. Inside this function, create a dialog with a dialog.fullScreen. Now inside this dialog, you can add all the widgets using a child property, and you can design whatever you want. So inside this dialog full screen, I've created a column which has main axis and cross axis in center. Then as a children, we have a padding. Inside this padding, we are going to use cache network image to display the network image. And inside this function, we are going to pass the image which we want to display in full screen. And after that, we have alignment to make the item or the button in the bottom center. And then inside the size box, we have outline button, which is going to simply use get.back to return to previous main screen. So once we created these two functions, let's head to product details. Inside this image slider, first you have to create instance of that class. I'm going to use get.put because we are using getX. If you're not using getX, you can use just images controller to create a new instance. So once we have the instance, using that controller, we can call this get all product images and pass the product. Product will be received over here, and it is going to convert all the images and return all the images to this variable. Now the first thing is to display the main large image, because this is the widget that should have to be redrawn whenever the current image or the selected image is changed. So just click on this image, press Alt Enter and wrap it the new widget. We're going to use the OBX widget. So this is the widget that is going to be observer widget, which is going to observe the .obs variables. Whenever there is change inside those OBS variables, it is going to automatically redraw and call set state for us, and we don't have to call set state. So inside this function, instead of the child, it requires us to create function, and inside this function we have to return a widget. So this widget will be returned inside this function. Also, it cannot be a constant. Add constant where required, Control Alt L to align. And now inside this function we have to replace this image. So first create a variable of image to receive the image, and we can get the image from controller dot selected product image dot value. So this value is going to get the actual value, which is string. We will have the image over here, and we can pass the image to this asset image. Remove this constant because this is the asset image, so we also have to convert this into a cache image instead of the asset image. Cache network image, and as an image URL we are going to pass this image. I've created this over here, but instead we have to remove this image. Okay, so our image has been assigned. We have a list of images over here, so let's head to the list view in which we are going to display all these images. So first of all, for the image count, we have to call images.length for the image count, and for the item builder, inside this we have to pass the image URL in this way, images of current index. So it is going to get a single image using this current index and pass or assign the image URL over here. And one more thing that we missed, in order to add a loader for this cache image, we have a progress indicator builder. Using this builder, we don't need a context and progress. And also, if in case you want to have the download progress, you can get that as a third variable. And then as a function, we can create a circle progress indicator, and value will be passed as download progress dot progress. Now it will add a complete progress and give it any color. So we will be able to see the progress of our image which is being cached. Now on top of this rounded image, if we want to make our rounded image selected, change the border color, we have to again wrap it with the widget which is obx, and instead of this child we are going to create a function, and inside this function simply return this widget at a semicolon. Now this obx is going to detect any change. We must have to provide any obs variable. So if there is some change in that obs variable, it is going to redraw this widget again. So in this we are going to get the image selected. To get the image selected, we again have to call the controller dot selected product image dot value, because we have a loop over here. So we have to find the selected image. So we have to equal them with the image of index. It is going to get each image one by one, get the selected image. If we have selected image as true, we're going to change the border. If image selected is true, we're going to display the primary color as a border, and otherwise we're going to display the transparent color. Let's move it at the end. Okay, we are done with the images. Now let's run this application. One more thing, meanwhile the project is running, we have inside this rounded image, we have a variable which is network image, and if we are going to make it true, it is going to automatically use. Down below you can see if is a network image is true, it will load the cache network image, and automatically it has a shimmer effect as a loader. Okay, so our application is running and it's being loading the data. All the products have been loaded. Now when we're going to click on this product variation, you can see the first image has been loaded, but rest of the images are not being loading. Also, you can see the selected image. So first of all, let's see what's going on. Okay, we added the network image to true, but we didn't refresh it. So let's save the code. And now you can see the loaders are being loading. First image is right over there. We are unable to select this, but we can see all the images loaded, and the reason is obvious that we did not add any on press on which we are going to change this selected product image value. For that, you hover over this rounded image and you will be able to see on press event of this function, which is nullable. So in here, add this on press, and as a function we are going to create this controller dot select product image dot value is equal to the current image from this loop. So let's save it again. When we are going to select this time you can see images are also being changed, and we are able to do all these operations. Now when we're going to click on this large image, we should open this image in a full mode. So for that, for this main large image, so when this image is going to be tapped, we want to display this image in full mode. So right on top of this cache network image, press Alt Enter and wrap it with a widget. You can use Inkwell or any other widget, but I'm going to use a gesture detector and add on tap using controller dot show enlarged image. The function that we created before will be triggered, and we are going to pass the current image that we want to display in full mode. Add a comma, Control Alt L. Now let's save the code again. Click on this image and you can see the image in large mode. So let's close it. Select another one and display it in a large mode. So images part is now completed. Let's close this. Now let's head towards the product metadata because we're not dealing with the rating and share in this tutorial. So let's talk about the product metadata. Same like product image slider, we're going to pass a complete product in here right on top of this build method, create a product model variable because we're going to receive that product model over here inside this constructor. The same like this slider, we are going to pass product over here, remove this constant. Now we have the product in the metadata. So let's use this product to assign all the values. The first thing over here is a sale tag. So to display the sale tag, because if you remember the product controller we created in the previous tutorial, we created a function which is going to calculate the percentage or the sale percentage for each product for us. So let's first call the product controller. Now this time you can see we are not creating a new instance using get.put, but we are using product controller dot instance. This is going to find the product instance that already created inside home. So if we don't have any instance already created, it is going to throw the exception. So make sure that you have already instance created inside your memory. Once we have the controller, call calculate sale percentage method. So this is the method we created. The one over here is to get the price. Then we have calculate sale percentage. It is going to get the original price, sale price, add few checks and add a percentage formula and return the percentage without adding any values next to the dot. Now inside this, we are going to remove this 25, just add a dollar sign and call the variable with a sale percentage. Now when I'm going to click on save, you can see the sale percentage change from 25 to 78%. Next, to display the price tag, because we are using the same variables again and again, you can also combine these sale tags into a single widget and simply call that widget over here. The first one in the design you can see is the price, which is the discounted price, and the second one is the actual price. To get the actual price, we have a function inside the same controller. So call product controller dot get product price, pass the product, remove this constant, and let's see this function. So this is the function that we covered in the previous tutorial. This is going to return us the smallest and largest price in terms of the product which has a variation, or the single sale price if we don't have variation and we have a single product. This is going to display a single product price, and right on top of this, if we have anything in the discount, we want to display the discount price. For that, first of all, let's add if. So first of all, we are going to check inside this if product dot product type is equal to product type is single dot toString, and also if there is any sale going on, product all sale price should be greater than 0. If this condition is true, we want to display actual price, because in that case sale price will be over here. So to display the actual price, just use product dot price and it's going to display the actual price. So let's save it, because currently we have a variation. So you can see, we can see the variation price. And also to remove this extra space, we again have to add this if statement for this size box as well. Now let's save it, and you can see extra space has been removed. Now let's go to a single product, and this way you can see it as a 14% sale going on, has a specific main price is inside discounted rate, and the discounted price is displaying as a main price. Next, to get the title, just use the product dot title, remove this constant. Now to get the status, which is in stock or out of stock, the method we already created in the previous tutorial, controller dot get product stock status. If you open this, it is just going to check if stock value is greater than 0, return in stock, otherwise return out of stock. Product dot stock. If you want to check the stock price of single variation, that we are going to deal right over here inside this variation tag. You can see another stock value over here. So this stock is related to the overall stock of your item. And then for the brand, again, remove this, call the product, use brand value dot name is going to return the name of the brand, remove this constant. And also, because brand can be null, so you have to add any additional check over here. If brand not is equal to null, we're going to return the product brand dot name, and in the else scenario we don't want to display anything. And same is the case for this image. Paste it. If brand is not null, we're going to display the brand image, and in else case we don't want to display any URL. Or if you have any default URL, you can pass it, and also you have to add additional check in the circle image that if this image is not null, otherwise it is going to display something that you don't like to display it on the screen. So once assigned all these values, let's save it, and you can see the current brand is Zara. You can see a small logo which is not visible. Change the title as well. Current status is in stock. Now we're going to completed all these variations, all the images. Now let's head towards this variation attribute, which is a more complex, and I will try to make it as simple as possible. So let's close this metadata, add towards this description, and also to change this description because we are using the read more text. Just replace the description with the product.description and remove the constant because description can be null. So add double question mark, and if the description is null, we're going to display empty string. Okay, now let's talk about the attributes. So first of all, we want to display the attributes in only case if the product has a type of variable. So first add if statement product.product type is equal to product type dot variable dot toString, because if you are new, you can see we have the product type of enum, which is single and variable. So we have two types. And also while storing data inside Firestore, we have to make sure that product type is among a single or variable values. So when we're going to compare them, we have to compare it in this way, and also to remove this extra space, just do it one more time, and the space and the product attributes will only be displaying if we have a product of type variable. So when you save this, you can see all the attributes are gone because this is the product of type single, and also the product description added. Now let's head back, select the product with the variations, and you can see we have colors, size, which are the attributes, and the details of variations. Currently they are static. To make them dynamic, let's head towards this product attribute. Same for this product attribute, we first have to get the product model, import it, make it required in the constructor, and in the product details, pass the complete product to this and remove the constant. Now let's head towards this product attribute, and in here we're going to see two things. The first one is the rounded container, a complete rounded container till end. So this container contains the selected variation values, and then we have column over here which has wraps to display heading of the attribute and all the sub attributes that we received. Currently we have two static values, so let's remove the other one, and we are going to try to make this dynamic. So let's forget about this product description or the selected attribute values. First going to deal with how we are going to display the attributes over here. If you open this product model, inside this product model, we learned in the previous tutorial that we're going to get two things. The first one is product attributes. Second one is the list of product variations. If you open this product attribute model, we have two things. The first one is name. Second one is the list of strings that we're going to display. In case of colors, we have green, blue, and yellow. And in terms of size, we have EU34, 36, and 38. Now to display these values, you can see the first column contains a title and list of values of these attributes. So the first thing, we have to create a loop, or you can say a column, because recently you can see we have two columns over here. For that, I'm going to create a new column. Let's make the cross axis alignment to start, and now as a children of this column, we are not going to add static values, but we are going to create a loop over here for this list of children's. And to create a loop, we are going to call product attributes. So these are the things that we want to display. Because we know that we have the attributes, we added a check in the product details screen. Now inside this product attributes, we want to run a loop and we want to get a single product. You can run for loop, but to make things simple, I'm going to use a map property. So map is going to do the same, run a loop on all these product attributes. So inside this E, we are going to receive single attribute each time. And right over here, we are going to return this column, paste it over here, and right at the end of this column where this map is going to end, you just have to add dot to list, because the list is required by this list of children's. Now this map is going to return each time a single widget, and using to list, we are returning the list of widgets which is required by these children. Now in here, each time inside this map, we will receive the attribute and change the title. We're going to use this attribute dot name and remove this constant. So by this way, we will be able to display the name of the attribute. String can be null. So by this way, we can assign a name to this heading. And after that, we have list of values, because inside this wrap, we have three values currently: green, blue, and yellow, right? And while creating these chips, we focused in detail that how this chip is going to work and why we are using this on selected when this chip will be selected, and what is this selected attribute, and also what is this text, and how we can use this helper function to get the color right. Now, instead of passing these key choice chips manually, we are going to remove these two, and inside this children, we are again going to loop through all the values, because when you are going to open the product attribute model, you can see we again have so list of strings. So this means that we again have to add a loop in order to display all these values. So let's use attribute dot values dot use the map property. Inside this, we are going to receive a single value, and I'm going to use this choice chip, remove these square brackets, and also at the end, because we have to return the list, so make sure to add dot to list over here. So instead of this null, we are going to return the key choice chip, and also because these values can be null, so add exclamation mark. And then inside this t choice chip, we are going to receive a single value. So I'm going to change this green with the value itself, which is string, and which the string we want to display on the screen. Now, when we are going to save this, you can see we have two things. Colors are changed, sizes are changed. Currently, they are toggleable, but they are not selected because we have static value, which is selected. And I'm going to make it true. Let's save it, and you can see all the values, all the colors, all the sizes are by default true. Now let's revert this, and also inside this T container, we only want to display this container when any variation is selected. So we are going to deal with the backend now. Done with the design. First of all, let's create another controller, a specific controller for these product attributes. Okay, I've created a variation controller inside the product, and it is again a empty class with a getX controller, and it has three variables. And I've created few functions. This function is quite same as the previous function, which is just going to check the product variation stock status. We will pass the selected variation to this. Selected variation dot value dot stock is greater than 0. We're just going to return in stock or out of stock based on this. And we have a variable which is variation stock status dot value, because runtime we have to redraw the status of this stock status again and again whenever a new variation is selected. So for that, we just have to create OBS type of variable, which will have a string value in stock and out of stock. After that function, we have another reset selected attributes function, which we will learn in upcoming tutorials, that why we are resetting this selected attribute, clear this, and also variation stock status to be cleared, selected variations to be cleared. This is mostly used when you're going to open a new product and you are using the same instance. In that case, you just have to call this function to reset all the values for a new product. In other case, you will see the same previous product values already selected even when you open a new product. So let's not get confused with these two functions. Let's start with the first thing. If you see the design, we first have to make sure that when we click on any of the attribute, it should be selected. So we will get the selected attributes inside this map type of list, which is going to first get the color, which is the key, and the value, which will be the color itself, which is green, red, or black. Then again, because it is the map, we can add another key, which will be the size. The value will be another attribute. By this way, we can add as many attributes or select as many attributes as we want, but we just have to make sure that only one attribute of this key should be added. So the key is color, so color value will be added only once. So if key color is added, we cannot add another same key using color. So this way we are using the map property, add key and value pairs. Again, it is .obs. This means that whenever we are going to use the obx variable in the design and there is any change inside the selected attributes, we will be able to display on the screen. And based on these selected attributes, whenever we have anything equal to some variation, we will be able to display the selected variation. So currently, let's see the variation model. We have ID, price, image description, sale price, stock status, and attribute values of each product variation. If you open the Firestore, while creating a previous tutorial, we learned that in each product variation, we have list of attributes. Because by variation, you know that it is a combination of some attributes. So this first product has attributes, the key is name, which is color, and the values are green, black, and red. Then we have a key size, values are 30, 32, and 34. And now all the variations should be among these two combinations, right? So the first variation is having all the details, but it also have product attribute values. It has a color of type green. So we have a color of type green. Then it has a size of type 32. So whenever we want to make sure that the first attribute is selected color green, it's okay. We don't want to display any variation. But also when another attribute is selected, which is size 34, so this condition will be true and we want to display this attribute right on top of the user screen, and also want to let the user add that into the cart. So by this way, if you open another one, you can see it's color black size 32, color black size 34. So we have two attribute values over here of each variation, and attributes selected based on these product attributes. So we have attribute values over here, which is a map of string and string. And also whenever any of the attribute is selected, whenever user is going to click on this red 32, 34, any of the attribute, we have to trigger this on attribute selected method, and we have to pass the product name of the attribute and the value of the attribute. So name will be color, the first case, and value will be if green is selected, green, red, and black. So first of all, when attribute is selected, we will first add that attribute to the selected attributes, right? So in order to do that, we have to first get already previously selected attributes using, because when you hover over this map, you can see it is a map of type dynamic and dynamic. So not right from there. If you hover this selected attribute, you can see RX map of type dynamic and dynamic. So you just have to get all the data already selected to a local variable, and inside this local variable, now we can assign a new one selected attribute of attribute name. So we are going to use the attribute name, which is color. If already color is assigned, it will be replaced with the current value. So let's say the attribute name is color and the value is attribute value that we have just received over here inside this local selected variations. And also we are going to add the selected attributes inside the global that we're going to use in the design. The reason to use these locals are just simple, because when you hover this, you can see it's a dynamic and dynamic type. But if you hover the selected attribute, it has a map of type string and dynamic, and it is going to help us to compare things. So until now, we are able to add selected attribute inside this selected attributes list right from here. But whenever the new attribute is selected, we again want to run additional check that either we have two attributes, three attributes in the list, and do these attributes match with any variations. Add that check, I have created another function. It is just a helper private function. It is going to check that if these attributes are same or not. So these are the attributes of variations, and these are the attributes of the selected attributes we will receive from here. If you open this design, so these are the product attributes. From these attributes, we have some selected attributes, and right from below, we have product variations, and then we have attribute values. So with these attributes, we want to compare with the selected attributes. So we have two attributes. First of all, we are just going to check if selected attributes contains three attributes and current variation contains two attributes. Just means that if their lengths are not same, over here again in the variation, you can see we have two attributes, right? The first one and the second one. If selected attributes have a length of 3, this means that they cannot be equal, and we're going to return false from here. This means that current variation is not selected. And now to compare these two attributes, what we have to do is we have to run a loop on the variation attributes, which are the variation, and these are the variation attributes. So we have to run a loop on these. So we will run a loop on these keys, and we will be able to get a key of each attribute, and we just have to add the match sign. So you can see I've already added. If any of the attributes is different, then we're going to simply return. If they're not equal, if only even a one attribute is not equal, we will return. Like example is green is equal to green, it is not going to return, but large is not equal to small. So we are going to return from here. So to check this, you have to call attribute of key, which is the variation attribute of key. So inside variation attribute of key will be color right over here. If you pass the color, it is going to get the value. So when you pass the color, it is going to compare this black, which is the actual value of this key. Again, it is going to come over here. Let's say we have selected key, which is color, and we have a selected value, which is green. So this condition is not going to be true. Selected attribute will have a key which has a green value. They are equal. It is not going to true. This statement will be skipped. The next key will arrive, and in the next key we now have a size. So we're going to get all the attributes of this key, which is 32, 34, 35. So let's say 32 is selected or small size is selected. And also we have selected attribute which has a key which is size. This means that a small size and the value of this size is small. This means that they are equal and it is not going to return true. In that case, we're going to return true. This means that this current variation is now selected. And if it is not the case, it is going to return false, and this means that whenever we are going to receive false from this function, this means that the current attribute variation is not selected. Now to check this for each variation, because we have a single variation over here, now to loop through each variation, and because it is going to return something which will be selected variation. Now to loop through all these, we are going to call the product dot, because we have to find the product variation, so call the product variations. In this case, they are not null, so add exclamation mark dot. We're going to get the first selected variation. So I'm going to use first where. So this element is variation. So this first where is going to loop through each variation. So we have a first variation over here. Now this first variation should check that if this is the variation that we want to return or some other variation. So for that, we just have to call the function that we just created. And inside you can see we first have to pass the variation attributes to call the variation dot. We have attribute values of these variations, and we already have a selected attributes that we just created at the top. A custom variable, control alt L, and also add a comma. We can use the or else property. If this is not the case, we don't find anything in the else, we can return using function, we can return product variation model dot empty. This means that we don't have any selected variation yet on based of the selected attributes. So this first where is going to return true wherever it is going to find the same attributes. It is going to return this variation to the selected variation. And now based on this selected variation, we're just going to check that if selected variation dot image is not empty, this means that first of all is there should be anything inside this selected variation. If it returns empty, this image will be empty, and if it is not empty, we're going to use the image controller, call the selected product image, this variable, and we are going to assign the selected variation image URL to this one, and it is going to automatically reassign the new image for us. Okay, then we are going to assign the selected variation we have created over here. This means that we have something in the selected variation, either it's empty or it's not empty. We're going to pass this variation to the selected variation. It is going to return empty variation if we don't have any comparison, and if we have anything comparison over here, it is going to assign a new selected variation. And now the last thing is to get the variation stock status. So if there is anything in the stock for this selected variation, it is going to return true or false respectively. Okay, once everything is done, now before going to design and calling these functions, we first have to talk about this function. The role of this function is very important. It is going to check that either you can see this green is even available in any of the variation that user can select. If any variation who has the green value is in stock or out of stock, enable and disable these attributes, we have to use this function. If you head back over here, you can see we have the attribute values green, black, red, 30, 32, and 34. But inside these variations, we also going to check that, let's say we have a green over here, and also in this variation, we have a green value. So we're going to check that first, is any variation out there that is having a green sign? If yes, then we're going to check the stock status of this variation, and then we are going to enable or disable based on that availability. So for this, we're going to get the list of variations or all the variations for this current product. So we're going to get all this array or the list of product variations passed over here, and also the attribute that we are going to match. So let's say the current attribute is green, then black, then red, then 30, 32, 34. We'll pass one by one all these attributes, and we will try to get the values from each variations. Okay, here I'm going to get all the attributes or the attribute which are not null. So let's use these variations dot where, because we have to loop through each variation. At the end, call the dot to set to get all the unique values. Now inside this variation, we are going to use a single variation to check if it is empty or out of stock. Okay, first of all, we are going to get the attribute. Then inside the attribute values, we have a unique attribute name which is color. Let's say currently we are running a loop on this attribute values. We're going to pass the key. So let's say the key name is color. So if we get some value based on that key, let's say we have the color property which is not equal to null. This will be the first check. Then we're going to check variation dot attribute values again. Dot attribute name is not empty. And also we're going to check that current variation stock status is greater than 0. Then this means that this value is what we want. Now we want to return that list of values. To return that, again running a new loop, instead we can use the map property, and map is going to fetch all the non-empty attributes of this variation, and using the map property, the current variations, first it is going to run the where statement where they are not empty and also stock is not 0. We will get all these values from this where. Then we're going to run the map on each of them, and using variation dot attribute values, we will be able to get the values, and we're going to return them using set string. Okay, now we're going to return this. All the values or all this controller is created. Now head towards the product attributes. So first of all, inside this design, we're going to create a new instance of this variation controller. And using this controller, now we're going to first check that display variation price and stock when some variation is selected. So only in that case we want to display these details. So controller dot selected variation dot value dot id is not empty. Then we are going to not display this rounded container. So if we are going to save this, and you can see currently we have all the attributes, but we don't have any selected variation, because using this condition currently we don't have anything selected in the selected variations. Now let's talk about the selected attributes, and we have attribute values over here. So let me create a function instead of one fat arrow. This function will have to return a widget. So return t choice chip, control alt L to align. Now inside this choice chip, first of all, let's try to get the selected value. So let's create is selected is equal to controller dot selected attributes, and the current one is attribute dot name. We are going to pass attribute name which is color, and if the value of color, which maybe is green, red or blue, is equal to the current attribute value, because we are looping through these values, then this means that current attribute is selected. And now also we want to use that if it is available or not. To check the availability, use the controller dot the function that we just created at the end, get attributes availability and variation. We are going to pass all the variations of this current product using the product we received at the top. Then we are going to pass the attribute name which we are looping through at the top. So current attribute name is color. So the color will be passed to this function, and based on that availability, we are going to check all the values using dot contains. We're going to check that if they contain anything like this attribute, which is maybe currently green. So if we found any availability from this one, this means that the current attribute is available. Now to assign these things to this choice chip, text will be the attribute value. Now this selected will be replaced with is selected. So if we want to disable this t choice chip, we don't have to pass this on selected value. If we pass null, this will make this attribute to be not selected. So let me pass null over here. Let's save it, and you can see all these attributes are now disabled. So to make them disable or enable based on availability, if we is going to say if it is enable, true, we are going to get the value. We will be able to get the selected value, and in the else we want to pass null. If it is true, we're going to check if selected and available. Selected is the new value. So if selected is true, available is also true, because this is going to return as true if it is selected or not. So just add if statement. If it is selected and available is just additional check, then we want to call controller dot on attribute selected, pass the product, then pass the attribute name, the first one attribute over here. Attribute name will be color. If it is null, we are going to pass empty string, and then attribute values, which is the current attribute which is being selected. Now control alt L, let's save it. And you can see we don't have any value for this 30. This means that it is disabled, and we can click on any of this attribute, and you can see some images being triggered, but we are unable to see any change because we have to convert this wrap with a widget which is OBX widget to redraw our screen, because these values are being changed, which are the OBS values, but there was no widget which have to redraw this. So let's save it again. Now you can see currently we have red 32 is selected, and let's reselect the black. You can see the image at the top is also being changed. Same way we have a green 34, red and black as well. Now the last thing is just to get the selected variation data over here. So let's close these attributes, And inside we have a title, price, and stock status of the selected variation. We have already assigned a check at the top, and by this we will only be able to see this data when we have selected variation already assigned to this variable. To get the sale price or the actual price, open the variation controller, create a function which will return string get variation price. It don't require anything to be passed because we already have a variable which has selected variation. So just return selected variation dot value dot sale price is greater than 0. This means that sale is on. Then we want to return the sale price, and else we want to return the actual price of this variation. And to return the string, just wrap this into brackets and add dot to string. So now this condition is going to return the price or sale price. So head back over here inside this text, just replace 25 with dollar sign curly brackets controller dot get variation price. Now this is going to get the variation price. And also if this one is not the actual variation price, so this will be the actual price if we have anything like sale going on. So the sale price will go over here. So sale price or actual price will be displayed over here. So this actual price which has a line through, you can see over here, which is 25 in this case, should only be displayed if we have anything on sale. So if we have something on the sale, we are just going to call the controller dot selected variation dot value dot price. So we are going to display the actual price if we have sale over here, which will be line through, means that the sale is going on, and that sale price or the actual price will be displayed right over here. Controller dot variation stock status variable dot value. And above all, we are going to wrap this column which has the rounded container and all the values, which is selected variations. Whenever there is change in the selected variation, this column should be redrawn. So that will be done by the OBX. Now let's save the code. And currently you can see red 34 has different price. It is out of stock. And when we're going to select any other widget, you can see we have now discounted price and it is in stock. Change this. You can see the price has been changed. So by this way, we are able to get and display all the values. So same last thing, we have to change this description. This will be the description of this product title. So let's remove this constant. If this description is null, just add empty string, Control Alt L, and we are done with this description as well. So currently we don't have any description for these. So that's why we are unable to see any description. So this is what we was about to create in today's tutorial. You can again get the complete code already created in the description. I hope you learned something new. If you learned something new, please like the video. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified for all the upcoming changes. If you have any question, you can ask me down below in the comments. Once again, thank you for watching. Take care. Allah Hafiz.